Suddenly, a dinosaur is reborn on Earth, its egg preserved for millions of years. But could this dinosaur survive in the human world? Before diving into the story, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. The movie begins in a small town in Scotland, where an American couple is visiting. They stop at a cozy little restaurant and notice a picture hanging on the wall. The picture depicts a water monster. The woman's husband says, "Oh, come on, why are you looking at this? It's just a picture of a fake monster." An old man sitting nearby reading a newspaper overhears them and replies, "Yes, you're right. This picture is of a fake monster. But would you like to hear about a real one?" Intrigued, the couple sits at the old man's table, ready to listen. The old man begins his tale. The scene shifts to the past. Many years ago, during the chaos of World War II, there was a young boy named Angus. He lived with his mother and sister. His father had gone off to fight in the war but never returned. Angus was terrified of the sea. Yet, despite his fear, he would often sit on the shore gazing at the water. One day, while collecting shells, he stumbled upon a strange egg. Without understanding what it was, Angus decided to take the egg home. Near their house was a storeroom, and he carefully placed the egg there, brushing off the dirt covering it. Before he could finish his work, his mother called him, and Angus left the egg behind. Soon after, a heavy storm began. Late that night, as Angus sat staring at his father's picture, he suddenly heard a strange noise coming from the storeroom. Braving the rain, he ran to the storeroom, but found nothing unusual, except for fragments of the eggshell scattered on the floor. The egg had hatched. Angus frantically searched the storeroom but found no sign of what had emerged. Then, stepping outside, he saw it. A creature unlike anything he had ever seen. Angus realized that this mysterious creature had just hatched from the egg. Instead of being scared of the creature, Angus tries to touch it, but the creature attacks him. Angus thinks the little one might be hungry. He rushes to the kitchen and brings back a potato. He cuts it into small pieces and feeds the creature. Angus notices a small wound on the creature's body. Concerned, he carefully bandages the injured spot. Just then, his mother calls him again, and Angus has no choice but to leave the creature there and go to her. The next morning, Angus wakes up to find a group of soldiers outside his house. These soldiers had set up camp near the sea, but now they were here to guard the lake's surroundings, ensuring the Germans couldn't infiltrate. During this time of war, soldiers didn't set up camps randomly, but often took refuge in people's homes. For the next few days, this group of soldiers would stay in Angus's house. A little while later, Angus goes to the storeroom to check on the creature. But by then, the creature had completely wrecked the place. It must have been terribly hungry. While searching for food, it had turned the storeroom into a mess. Angus goes back inside the house to find something for it to eat. But with so many soldiers in the house, there's already a shortage of food. Angus can't find anything to feed it. With no other option, he brings the vegetable garbage and places it in front of the creature. The creature dives into the garbage and devours the vegetables in no time. Angus decides to give the creature a name, Crusoe. Over a short period, Crusoe and Angus become great friends. Angus soon realizes that the creature lives in water and can't stay out of it for long. To keep Crusoe comfortable, Angus places him in a drum filled with water. Meanwhile, a boy named Lewis arrives at Angus's house. The soldiers had sent him to help Angus's mother with household chores. Lewis is given the storeroom to stay in, but Crusoe had already made a mess of the storeroom. When Angus's mother comes to the storeroom, she remarks, "My son claims to have hidden a pet in here. That's why this place is in such a state. I don't want him keeping any animals. If you see one, throw it out immediately." With that, she leaves. Lewis starts cleaning the storeroom alone. Hearing about this, Angus quickly runs to the storeroom. He finds Lewis draining the water from Crusoe's drum and cleaning it. Angus, scared of his mother, can't muster the courage to say anything to Lewis. And Lewis, annoyed, scolds Angus and chases him away. That night, Angus searches everywhere for Crusoe. But no matter where he looks, he can't find him. Unbeknownst to Angus, Crusoe was wandering around his house looking for him. In just a short while, Crusoe had grown much larger in size. While searching, Crusoe stops in front of the bathroom. Inside, he hears the sound of water. Out of curiosity, Crusoe ventures into the bathroom and hops into the bathtub. Hearing noises from the bathroom, Angus's sister goes to check. The moment she sees Crusoe, she screams in fear. Angus hears her and rushes to the bathroom. He drags his terrified sister back inside and explains everything to her. Crus won't harm anyone. There's no need to be scared, Angus reassures her. And please don't tell anyone about him. At first, his sister refused, but when she realized that Crusoe wasn't a threat, she reluctantly agreed and promised to keep it a secret. Just then, Louis arrived to fix the bathroom tap. With no choice left, they had to open the bathroom door. The siblings tried their best to hide Crusoe behind them, but the innocent creature, unaware of the tension, came out and revealed itself to Louis. Louis froze at the sight of such an unusual creature. At first, he was terrified, but as he watched Crusoe cuddle up to Angus and his sister, his fear melted away, replaced by fascination. Tentatively, Louis reached out to touch Crusoe, but the sudden approach of a stranger startled Crusoe, and it tried to bite Louis's hand in defense. Angus quickly intervened, calming the situation and helping Louis and Crusoe bond. Louis examined Crusoe closely and said, "This is a water horse. Many years ago, there was only one water horse in existence. It laid an egg, but before the egg could hatch, that water horse died." As they talked, Angus's mother started calling for them. Suddenly, she entered the bathroom. Luckily, the three of them had already hidden Crusoe. The next night, the soldiers hosted a party. Everyone in the house joined. Angus, after eating his dinner, left Crusoe in the bathroom and stepped out, forgetting to close the door. Crusoe, seeing the door open, wandered out. A soldier's dog spotted Crusoe and immediately began chasing him. Crusoe darted around the house, trying to save himself. In the chaos, he stumbled into the party room. The guests had just started their dinner. Crusoe scurried under the tables, trying to escape, while the dog jumped over the tables, chasing him. Plates crashed, food spilled, and the entire party was thrown into disarray. Hearing the commotion, Angus rushed to the scene. He saw Crusoe running under the tables and immediately followed him outside. Somehow, no one noticed Crusoe. But despite searching everywhere, Angus couldn't find him. Just as he was losing hope, Louis appeared and said, "Go back inside. I'll find Crusoe and bring him back." Louis searched tirelessly through the night, but couldn't find Crusoe either. The next morning, with a large bag in hand, Louis headed out to look for him again. Finally, he spotted Crusoe in the fountain near the house. Crusoe had been feasting on the fish in the fountain and had grown even bigger. By now, Crusoe was so large that it was impossible to hide him in the house any longer. Realizing this, Louis and Angus decided to take Crusoe to the sea. Louis explained, "Crusoe needs to live in the ocean now. He's going to grow even bigger." They tried their best to release Crusoe into the sea, but Crusoe refused to leave Angus. The bond between them was too strong. Angus, however, understood that keeping Crusoe with him wasn't an option anymore. With a heavy heart, he let Crusoe go into the ocean and turned away. Back at home, the army captain informed Angus's mother that he would now take Angus under his wing and teach him the ropes. From then on, Angus was kept busy with various tasks under the captain's watchful eye. Days passed. One day, Angus got a chance to escape. He ran to the sea, calling out for Crusoe, but Crusoe didn't come. Despite his fear of water, Angus took a boat and ventured into the ocean, desperate to find his friend. Even after rowing to the middle of the lake and calling out for Crusoe, there was no sign of him. Angus felt his heart sink, but just as he was about to give up, he saw something behind him. It was Crusoe. In just a few days, Crusoe had grown into a massive, majestic creature, a true water horse, resembling a mystical horse of the sea. Angus's sadness vanished in an instant, replaced by sheer joy. He ran to Crusoe, and the two embraced as if they'd been apart for ages. Before Angus could fully comprehend what was happening, Crusoe gently lifted him onto his back. At first, Angus was scared, but as they soared over the water and plunged beneath the waves, he began to enjoy the magical ride. Crusoe even took him underwater, only as long as Angus could hold his breath. It was a moment of pure wonder, but their joy was short-lived. Nearby, a soldier walking his dog caught sight of Angus and Crusoe. The dog barked loudly, trying to chase after Crusoe. Panicked, Angus whispered to Crusoe, urging him to dive deep and escape. Back at home, Angus couldn't contain his excitement. He shared every detail of his adventure with Louis and his sister. The three of them laughed and marveled at the magical experience, their happiness filling the room. Outside, Angus's mother overheard their laughter. She paused and smiled, pleased to see her children so happy. Later, Louis stepped outside to talk to Angus's mother. He confided in her, explaining his past. "I was once a soldier," he said. "I fought many battles, but it left my body scarred and broken. I even almost lost my hand. That's why I left the army. Now, I travel as a helping hand for others." Meanwhile, Captain began to develop feelings for Angus's mother. From a distance, he watched her talking and laughing with Louis. Jealousy gnawed at him. Determined to dig up dirt on Louis, the captain ordered his soldiers to investigate. But when they checked Louis's ID and military records, they found his file spotless. He had never committed any wrongdoing. Instead of being relieved, this only fueled the captain's anger further. In a nearby restaurant, a group of elderly fishermen discussed the water horse. They claimed to have seen Crusoe while fishing the day before. The restaurant manager, overhearing their conversation, declared, "We have to catch that water horse. If tourists see it, our profits will skyrocket." Meanwhile, the captain took his troops to the lake. They surrounded it, setting up guards all around and using the open space for training drills. The soldiers were ordered to throw explosives into the water for practice. Watching this, Angus's heart raced with fear. He knew Crusoe was in that very lake. He tried desperately to stop them, shouting and pleading for them to stop. But no one listened. The captain, annoyed by Angus's interference, scolded him harshly, calling him names. Angus's mother, watching from a distance, was deeply hurt by the captain's behavior. Disappointed, she took Angus and the other children and left. The captain's plan to impress them had completely backfired. After they left, the soldiers began throwing explosives into the lake. Crusoe, who had been peacefully swimming underwater, was now fighting for his life. He dodged the blasts, narrowly escaping harm, but the fear was overwhelming. Meanwhile, the elderly fishermen, unable to find Crusoe in the lake, decided to fabricate evidence. They built a fake water horse and took a photograph of it, hoping to convince others of its existence. Late at night, Angus and Louis went to the lake. Angus wanted to check if Crusoe was okay. He called out for Crusoe, and eventually, the creature emerged from the water. But something was different. Crusoe seemed frantic, almost wild. The trauma of the explosions from the previous day still haunted him. When Angus reached out to touch him, Crusoe flinched, memories of the bomb's impact flashing through his mind. Meanwhile, the soldier with the dog had reported to the army that there was a large creature in the water. Determined to hunt it down, the soldiers set out on a boat. But Crusoe, sensing danger, attacked them first. He even overturned their boat, throwing them into the water. At one point, Crusoe almost hurt one of the soldiers, but Angus arrived just in time. Angus shouted desperately at Crusoe to let the man go, but Crusoe didn't listen. In a moment of panic, Angus jumped into the water himself. As he swam closer, he was caught in the deep current of the lake and began to sink. On the shore, a soldier raised his gun to shoot at Crusoe, but Louis intervened, trying to stop him. The two got into a scuffle, and luckily, the gun wasn't loaded. Underwater, Crusoe noticed Angus sinking. Forgetting everything else, Crusoe let the soldier go and dove into the water to save his friend. Using his powerful jaws, Crusoe gently grabbed Angus and brought him to the surface. Crusoe's eyes were filled with worry, his tension palpable as he nudged Angus toward the shore. Just then, Angus's mother and the captain arrived at the scene. Angus, still gasping for breath, began explaining everything about Crusoe. But no one believed him, especially his mother. That's when Crusoe emerged from the water. His massive, majestic form left everyone speechless. For the first time, they all believed Angus's story. Angus's mother, who had previously blamed Louis for filling Angus's head with wild tales, now stood stunned. Seeing Crusoe in front of her, she realized everything was true. Suddenly, from the other side of the lake, the soldiers began firing at Crusoe. It was a stormy night, with heavy rain and darkness all around. The soldiers, unable to see clearly, mistook Crusoe for a German battleship and continued firing. Angus climbed onto Crusoe's back, urging him to escape. His mother, the captain, and Louis quickly boarded a boat, trying to help Crusoe reach safety. At the edge of the lake, there was a massive net set up as a barrier to prevent anything from passing into the open sea. It had kept Crusoe trapped in the lake all this time. Angus guided Crusoe to the net, showing him how to break through it. With one last push, Crusoe tore through the barrier and swam into the vast ocean. The sea was where Crusoe truly belonged. Watching him disappear into the waves, everyone felt a bittersweet sense of relief and happiness. From that day on, many claimed to have seen the water horse, but Angus never saw Crusoe again. The scene shifts to the present. The old man finishes his story, and the couple asks for his name. With a smile, he replies, Angus. He was the same boy who once befriended the creature from the sea. In the final scene, we see a young child playing by the ocean. While exploring, the child stumbles upon a massive egg, just like the one Angus had found all those years ago. Perhaps Crusoe had left this egg behind, ensuring the cycle of life would continue. One day, another creature like Crusoe would emerge. And with that, today's story comes to an end. Let me know how you liked it. I'll see you again with another exciting tale. Until then, take care and goodbye.